Zone defense of Syracuse was overwhelming. In fact, the 39 points scored by Marquette tied for the fewest since we started calling the regional finals the Elite Eight. You had to win a game to get there. 1951, San Francisco scored just 39. Seth Greenberg, Digger Phelps, Jay Billis here. Exactly 3 weeks ago, College Game Day was in that very building, the Verizon Center in D.C., and we saw Syracuse score 39 points, just as they held Marquette to on Saturday. Look dead in the water, lifeless, no shot. What's changed for the Orange?
You know, if you had told me that day that we walked out of the Verizon Center in Georgetown, beat them silly, and held them to 39 points, that Syracuse would be in the Final Four, I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way. They were a fragile team walking out of that building, and when they got to the Big East tournament, they played Seton Hall in their first game and started knocking some shots down. James Sutherland started hitting shots. He wound up setting a record in that tournament. He beat Jerry McNamara's record. I think he had 17 threes during that tournament. And all of a sudden, the ball started going in, and Michael Carter-Williams started changing the way that he played. Instead of looking for shot first, he was looking for pass first. He was driving. He was getting out a little bit more in transition, and his offense was secondary to the rest of the team's offense. They started moving the ball more. Now, it's not like we're looking at an offensive juggernaut here. They shot 38%, scored 55 points, but I do think their offense improving has really helped their defense. They're more active. You know, their length. Keita has been a big deal when he comes into the game, the way he's solidified the middle along with Rakeem Christmas. Their size out front. They're really starting to assert themselves defensively, whereas before they felt like they had to pitch shutouts because they couldn't get a score on the other end.
I really thought they made some great defensive adjustments. You go back to when they lost February 21st in Milwaukee by 3. Gardner had 26 points in a game. Well, he had 9 in the first half. Well, in the second half, they said, you're done. And they ended up with 5. And credit Syracuse for controlling the boards in the second half. Because in the first half, Marquette controlled the boards 24-17. Second half, it was 27-13 Syracuse. The third factor to me, C.J. Fair was MVP of this game. You can talk all you want about Carter Williams and Trish and Sutherland making some threes, but C.J. Fair to me, not just him hitting double figures or getting his rebounds, but he had a couple blocks, he had 3 steals, he played some defense, and he was the difference maker to why Marquette ends up shooting the threes and could not score, like you said, shooting, what, 22%. And the fact is, when you look at how Syracuse comes together defensively, that creates their offense and transition points, this is where they just waited, worked, and made this thing happen, where they just put this game away when it got ugly at the end for Marquette.
To me, that zone swallows up little guards. I mean, you talk about Hulls and Yogi Ferrell, you talk about Junior Cadogan. The top of that zone just swallows up those little guards. Those top guys, Michael Carter-Williams and Brandon Trish, they do a great job of either getting over the top of the screen or getting under the screen. The other thing I thought, Buzz Williams wants to get paint touches. I'll tell you one thing, and paint catches. And I thought Syracuse did a great job of limiting paint touches and paint catches. And when the ball did go to the post, they did a good job of what I call fanning and finding. So when the ball went into the post, those perimeter guys got matched up. So that pass back out, they arrived on every catch. They made Vanderblue catch it and put the ball on the floor. They contained all dribble penetration. And, Jay, I agree with you 100%. By Musa Keita, his ability to cover the high post, and then when the ball goes to the baseline, get level of the ball, it changes their defense. And the same thing with Michael Carter-Williams. Michael Carter-Williams now, he manages the basketball game. He's a facilitator first, a scorer second, and it's more important for him to get others involved as opposed to trying to score the ball himself. Really great job of watching this team develop over the last 2 weeks.
And a remarkable story for Michael Carter-Williams, whose family home was destroyed in a house fire as they were trying to watch Syracuse play against California earlier in the tournament. Carter-Williams, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. What was the big difference? And look, Boeheim was concerned about Marquette because he said, we're not afraid of the zone, or they're not afraid of our zone. They've played against it. They played well against it in Milwaukee. Yet 3 of 25 from 3. Opponents against Syracuse in this tournament now 14 of 92 from 3. What was the difference in what Syracuse was able to take away from Marquette?
Marquette couldn't get to the free throw line in this one. That game in Milwaukee, they shot 30-some free throws.
Plus 24.
Now the game was poorly officiated, I'll tell you that, because a lot of those fouls were bogus. But they put him on the free throw line a lot, and that was really the difference in the game. But in this one, toward the end of the first half, I think there were about 7 minutes in the first half, Marquette couldn't score, and then they put Devontae Gardner in the middle. When he got the ball, he could make a play in there. Now, he's not going to put the ball on the deck and get by people and go to the rim, but he could make that shot from the free throw line, and he's a good passer, so he could kick it out. They started getting some scores. I think he scored 4 or 6 points there, and then he wound up catching it and getting it down to Chris O'Toole. They got a score. All of a sudden, Marquette's back in the game. At halftime, they clearly adjusted, and they were up there to guard that. They tightened everything up defensively, and they were much more alert in the second half defensively and really shut everything down. Then Marquette winds up, they shot half their shots were threes, and they went 3 of 25 from 3. And that's the genius, and I do think it's genius. That's the genius of him playing the zone as a primary defense. Most people play zone because they don't think their man is good enough and they've got to play it as a stopgap. He plays as a primary defense, and you wind up take the shot he wants you to take instead of the shot that you want, and ultimately those percentages work out in Syracuse's favor. It doesn't mean they're going to win every game, but the teams that play man, they lose too. But he does a great job with that defense.
What they did well, I thought, their best scorer is Vanderbilt. And any time he got the ball, they had him surrounded. So he ends up shooting shots under pressure. He goes 3 for 15. So if he can't score outside in the perimeter, get his game going offensively, and then you take Gardner out of that high post stuff that they did, not just in Milwaukee, but like he had that 9 points in the first half and only gets 5 in the second. Now they have no confidence. And now when, to me, Syracuse starts controlling the boards, they start getting their transition game, getting points in the paint. Marquette never recovered. They get down 15, game was over.